Hi, this is Terry Bach, and welcome to the Untapped Potential for Women Over 50 Mini Summit. For women over the age of 50, it's often a time of awakening, kind of getting out of this fog, realizing that it's your time now. So maybe you've been really busy taking care of your family, taking care of your pets, taking care of everything, doing a good job with your business or being really busy in your job, but you haven't really necessarily been very good at taking care of you. So there may be things that maybe you're starting to wake up to the fact that, what about me? What about the rest of my life? Maybe there was some things in your earlier part of your life that you thought you'd be doing by now, but you haven't done those. Or maybe you don't really know what you want that next part of your life to look like yet. So I have brought together some amazing experts on the topic of women over 50 and redesigning life on their terms. And each of our experts will be talking about this from their own specific and unique point of view. So today I've invited Meredith Richardson as our expert. Meredith empowers women worldwide who are in midlife and beyond to live their best life. After fighting off a kidnapper attempt in 2015, and then facing off her attacker at his criminal trial in 2018, Meredith left her husband, her career, and her country behind, wandered the world for 2 years, wrote a memoir, and became an empowerment coach. I want to definitely hear more about this for women. So when COVID-19 hit in 2020, Meredith returned to the US and ended up on the Oregon coast, where she fell head over heels in love. Meredith loves helping women all over the world to see their strengths, step into their power, and claim their best lives. So welcome, Meredith. Glad to have
Thank you. Thank you so much for this opportunity. I really appreciate it. I'm really excited about being here. So thank you.
Good. I'm excited to get to know you more too. So I know that you were inspired to coach women based on your own experience of going from a pretty big, it sounds like, trauma to transformation in your own life. So
Yes.
can you tell us a little bit more about that?
Sure. So, as you said, I fought off an attempted kidnapping in 2015. I used to be a mediator and a conflict coach. So I worked with the most high conflict people in the court system,
Right. Yeah.
trying to help them to come to an agreement. And I did a lot of divorce mediation in that as well. Another thing that I did, I was an attorney. And I was also something called a guardian ad litem. And so in that, I represented the best interest of children in court when they were not able to represent themselves. So it could be a situation where the parents were getting a divorce and they could not agree on what should happen with the children. And then the court would appoint me to do an investigation and make recommendations. Or it could be a
Okay.
situation like a child protective case where the state has decided that the children are unsafe in the home. And so the state has asked the court to remove the children from the home and put the children in the state's care.
Okay.
Okay. And in that instance, also the court appoints a guardian ad litem so that there's basically a neutral third party, right? Because the state is going to say the children need to go. The parents are going to say the children need to stay.
Right.
And then the guardian ad litem does an investigation that the court can't do. The court can't go typically to parents' houses to see how they're,
Right.
right?
Sure.
But
Yeah.
as the guardian ad litem, I could. So I
Okay.
had met my attacker back in 2010 because I was appointed as guardian ad litem in that child protective case. And I recommended that his parental rights be terminated. So he waited 4 years to get revenge on me. And he recruited another person to help him in that kidnapping attempt.
Gosh.
Yes. So
Wow.
it was really, yeah, it was very, very hard. At that point, I was a mediator. All I wanted to do was go back to mediation. And so I did. I basically was really good at cutting off everything my body was saying and just doing what
Right.
I wanted. I was very good at compartmentalizing. So I was
Yes.
back to mediating within 10 days.
Okay.
And I did that. And initially, my then husband, he was fabulous. So for the first year after the attack, he really was fabulous. We knew I could have died that night. So I mean, that really makes a big impact on,
Absolutely.
right?
Yeah.
And he was very grateful that I had not. But having something like that happen takes a toll on a person, right? There's just
Definitely.
um,
Yes.
yeah, and for me, it triggered PTSD. And
Hmm.
even though I was able to take care of some of it, I never got like back to normal. I did not go
Sure.
back to my old self. And I had to face off against my attacker at his trial in 2018. And by that point, my husband and I really didn't have a relationship left. We were so different. He didn't really want to spend time with me the way I was. And
And he probably didn't understand a lot of where you were either.
no, and he also just, I had been the person who was more in tune in terms of emotions and things like that and how to do things. And
Sure.
I had been a rescuer for many years. And with this, I could not rescue people anymore.
No.
I just needed to be able to rescue me.
Right.
And so I knew that my marriage was going to be ending. We had been talking over the year because it was a hard last year. But I thought after the trial that I would still be mediating. I thought that I would be maybe a mediation director, take one step away from my.
Hmm.
And instead, when I faced off against my attacker, it triggered another bout of PTSD. I thought that he was going to go free. And the
Oh my
concern,
God, that must have been terrifying.
that was the problem, right? So I
Right.
had,
Yes.
I did.
Wow.
Yes, the jury took a long time to come back, and the longer a jury is out, the more likely they are to acquit or to
Yeah.
be a hung jury, right? And so the victim witness advocate and I panicked together basically when they did
Mm.
not come back after 5 hours, I think.
Oh my gosh.
And so I knew that my attacker had changed his appearance back to the way he had when he had attempted to kidnap me. And there was no reason for him to change his appearance that last day unless he was planning something when he got out. And I knew he thought he was getting out that day. He was going for jury nullification. He was trying to have the jury go along with it being all right what he had done to me. And I did. I panicked, and I was in panic for an hour. And then
Gosh.
we got the verdict, but it was too late. My body just it didn't bounce as well the second time around, basically.
Yeah.
So I did
Well, you
not
were
want to.
re-traumatized.
I was, yes, and I just did
Yeah.
not want to be in the middle of anybody's conflict ever again. But I didn't know what to do with myself. So I went to Norway to visit friends and family for a couple of weeks. And I
Okay.
had actually farmed in Norway in my early 20s. And
Interesting.
yeah, so I went back to that farm, and it was so weird because not only did I feel like I was coming home, but I felt like I was coming home to me before the attack.
Okay.
They had a house available for rent starting just a few months after that. So I I did not ask at that moment, right, to rent the place, even though I wanted to. I thought you just go home, you're on vacation, go home, see what you can
Right.
do. But I went back and I still had no desire to be in the middle of people's conflict. It just, that part of
Hmm.
my life was completely done.
Okay.
Everything was in agreement. My body and my brain were 100% in agreement. They did not want to do this. So I rented the house in Norway. And so when I came back. I basically wound up I started winding up my marriage. I told my husband I wanted a divorce. We started dividing personal property. I wound up
Oh,
my mediation practice. This was like mid-June. So mid-June to the end of August, I completely wound down my mediation practice. I gave myself an out. I did it as a 3-month sabbatical just to make sure I wasn't crazy, right?
sure.
And then I just went off with a clear slate with nothing to do, but I brought my yoga mat. I knew I would be hiking because I was living overlooking a fjord and a beautiful mountain. So I was
Wonderful.
relaxed to the stress that way.
Yes.
And I knew I wanted to write a memoir. And now I would have nothing in the way of writing that memoir except for me. So,
Okay. Wonderful.
so
Yes.
yeah, so fast forward. So I did write the memoir, and then I did the first draft, and then I wasn't ready to come back to the States. I knew mediation wasn't going to work. So I went and I stayed with a friend in Australia for a couple months, and I was
Okay.
revising the memoir. And I went back to Norway and I studied Norwegian super intensively, and I
Wow.
was pitching the memoir to agents. But it wasn't happening as fast as I needed it to happen. And so I reached out to Facebook friends and said, what would you want to learn from me? And I was thinking they would want to learn something about relationships, right? Because that's what I did. I used to do.
Right.
And instead they said, we want to do what you're doing. Because at that point I was doing international pet sitting. And so what they saw was I had completely changed my life.
Right.
So that
You
was how
had.
I had, and that was how my
Yes.
coaching business was born.
Nice. Wow. That's absolutely incredible. I mean, that whole situation and time in your life, and
Yes.
and I know that you talk about strengths, and that's your focus in working with women. And I imagine that, I mean, you had to really draw on your strengths through this whole process to be able to get through it. But
Mhm.
what exactly does it mean when you're working with women on playing to their strengths? How would you define that, or how would you talk about that? That makes
So
sense.
that makes sense. And so yes,
Okay.
because I am strengths focused. And so that was what I did for myself was I looked at, okay, so what can I do that I like to do? Right?
Mhm.
What are my strengths? Well,
Right.
so I can write well, right? I do like to problem solve. I like to figure things out.
Mhm.
I've always enjoyed helping people. And I've
Right.
always enjoyed helping people to see the best in themselves. And as a mediator, I could see the best even when they were at their worst,
Right.
right? So I'm
Yeah.
always looking at what are your strengths? Where do you go with this? So when you're playing to your strengths, you are looking at this, whatever strengths that you have. And I think as women, I think it can happen with men too, but in women in particular, we can end up being focused on what's wrong with us instead of what's right with us.
And then
And
what's
if you're
wrong with
talking,
us keeps us from doing anything.
yes, because
Yeah.
we develop all these fears about it because
Mhm.
we're not ever perfect enough, right? We can never
Right.
reach that fabled state of perfection.
Right.
And so if you're focusing on your strengths though, then you're able to tap into, well, this is what I can do. This is what I'm good at. This is what's best for me. And you can go
Exactly.
forward with it
Yeah.
instead of wasting your time figuring out how to fix the things about you that don't actually need to be fixed, but they might require you to have a support person to help out with something.
Right. Yeah. Because we can't always see our strengths because we're so focused.
Yes, that's it.
Yeah. What's not so strong. Yeah. Exactly.
Right. And yeah,
Yeah.
that's what we're taught is to focus on what's not so strong and make
Yeah.
that better. And then whatever we do well, but that's normal. Anybody can do that. And the truth is,
Exactly.
no, they cannot,
Mm-mm.
right? I
No.
mean, that's why they're your strengths. So focus on the
Right.
strengths and let that drive you forward. And
Yeah.
also focus on the strengths that you like. So, for example, math is a strength for me. I don't want to do math except to the extent that it helps me to, like, do business work
Right.
and be a lawyer. I do that, but
Right.
I'm not going to use math. I don't want to become an accountant because that would be really bad in terms of other strengths that I have, like being
Mhm.
creative. And I have a
Right.
low tolerance for boredom. So
Yeah.
I
You don't want to
can't
be
do
creative
things.
as a bookkeeper. Yeah. Or an accountant. Yeah.
No, no, you can't have a low tolerance for boredom in certain jobs that involve a lot
Right.
of math, right?
Yes.
Yeah,
Yeah. Yeah. So I know that you mentioned rescuing others and needing to rescue yourself. And I know that you coach women in a way that, or you coach women who are tired, really have gotten to
mm,
the point of being tired of rescuing other people. And how do you help them with that? Because that's a mindset of being a rescue. It's kind of a habit. It becomes a mindset. And so how do you help women get
right.
that?
I would say it's even more than a mindset. It's an identity piece. So I know for
Yeah.
myself, when I was a rescuer, it
Mhm.
was something I took great pride in, right? So it is,
Okay.
you start even with challenging that belief that this is something that
Yeah.
is wonderful, right? And so it ends up being about, how do you bring self-care into your life? How do you give yourself permission to
Mhm.
take care of yourself the way that you're taking care of everyone else? And
Exactly.
so it's starting, yes, so it's going
Yeah.
there, and not challenging
Mhm.
the identity piece so much directly as building in, okay, so then what about your needs?
Mhm.
Where do your needs fall in relation to everyone else's? And can we make your needs equal to theirs?
Exactly.
We don't
Yeah.
have to make them more important. We can get to more important, but let's just start with equal.
Exactly.
Or let's just start with prioritizing, you get to have joy in your life every single day. And I had a woman I told that to, and she was incredulous. Like, what was I doing making her schedule joy into her life, especially on a daily basis?
Right. Right.
But
Exactly.
that's just not prioritizing your needs, right? So once
Mhm.
she prioritized joy, then everything else became infinitely easier because,
Right.
like the whole thing about using the carrot or the stick, she was using the stick on herself. She was a
Mm.
nurturing person, kind to everyone else. She just wasn't nice to herself. So once I
Right.
got this being kind to herself, then her life became so much easier.
Right. And do you find that feeling deserving or not feeling deserving kind of plays into that too?
Oh, 100%.
Yeah,
Because yes, if you're a rescuer, you're not feeling deserving, right? Because
exactly.
you need to be doing in order to
Mhm.
be worthy of love. So if you're not
Exactly.
doing for someone else, you're not worthy.
Right.
So the
And it's
whole
hard to
idea
do
that,
for yourself because you don't deserve it too. So I can see
right,
that's a transformation or a transition, whichever you want to call it, that you help your clients with, which isn't easy to get there on your own.
it is not. It is a challenge to get there on your own. It takes a long time. And even with someone, I think it
Yeah.
takes a long time because it can be stories that you don't want to hear, right? I
Yeah.
know myself as a rescuer, when I was challenged on that in terms of the identity piece, I was just like, why would I want to give up being that? Right? I mean,
Well,
that
it's
makes me a
scary
really nice person.
yeah, and it also scary to change your identity because you've known yourself this way for so long and other people know you this way. And then to change that can be really frightening.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. And I went through that in terms of changing my identity as a rescuer, but also changing my identity as a mediator and as an
Yes.
attorney, right? When I gave up my profession and
Yeah.
went off to do things, my family was horrified. What are you doing? And what are you
Yeah.
going to do during that time? You can't
Yes.
imagine you not doing anything. And
Mhm.
I said, I can't either. So I'm sure I'm going to get something done. I've cleared the
And
deck.
I think that's what what keeps a lot of women, especially over 50, from making these changes is, what's the family going to say? Who, or what are my friends going to say? And that holds them back from going after something that they might want to do even.
Right. And I think too, they don't have the same level of hope to some extent that they had in their 20s and 30s. So
Yeah.
I know people who will stay in unhappy marriages in their 50s
Right.
when they would not have done it, when they've actually left someone in their 30s. But there's this feeling being at this age that no, but that's not available to me anymore. And it's available to you all the time.
I think there's also a lot of societal messages like, well, you've stuck it out this long. Why are you in your 60s or 50s or whatever? Why are you deciding to leave this person now? You know,
Yes.
it's worked all these years. Why not continue
Right. And
life? Yeah.
yes, you get rewarded for being a person whose marriage has lasted and
Yeah.
not rewarded for being a person who's gotten a divorce. And there's great shame involved with a divorce or a breakup.
Yes.
You weren't able
Yeah.
to.
Yeah, there can be. Yeah.
Yeah. And I think there's also the societal message that women over 50 disappear. And
Mhm.
frankly, I was looking forward to disappearing, right? Because after the attempt to kidnap me,
Sure.
it's
Sure.
like, please let me disappear. Let that be the magical age where I disappear. And it is
Exactly.
so false. It is not true in the slightest. It
No.
is not this magic age where it happens. But I think that that's part of it too, is that women are afraid if they leave, they'll never have someone again because women
Mhm.
just disappear. Men aren't interested.
Exactly. Right. Yeah. So you are a very positive person, at least now. And
I am.
am I think we're both capable of finding that silver lining in just about every situation. And, but I know that, how do you help people? Because I know a lot of women would like to be able to do that, but they're just not able
Mhm.
to. So how do you help women who aren't able to see the silver lining in their situation?
I do two things. So one is a gratitude journal, and a
Okay.
lot of people do gratitude journals. So I can just touch on that briefly in terms of, find three things over the course of the day that you can be
Mhm.
grateful for, and then write them down at night. And then you're training your brain to look for the good instead of the bad, because our brains instinctively look for the bad to protect ourselves, right?
Right, right.
So it's a retraining, but then it's also, so you get a little positivity bump when you find something to be grateful for, and you get a little positivity bump when you also write it down because you're remembering it. And then the other piece that I find works really well for perfectionists, and it worked really well for me, is a success journal. Because when you're a perfectionist, you're never good enough. And whenever you get something that is done, well, of course, it's supposed to be done well. You're a perfectionist. So,
Right,
congratulations, you just did your job, right? There's
right.
not a
Exactly.
celebration. And whenever you don't get it absolutely perfect, then you beat yourself up.
Mhm.
So, do a success journal. Do three things that you succeeded at every day so that you
Mhm.
start to say, good job,
Right.
right? So you're doing the same kind of training. You're training yourself in the moment to say good job, and you're training yourself at the end of the day to say good job. So you're retraining your brain.
That's wonderful. And it's so simple. Really.
It's very
It's
simple.
for
It's
each one. Yeah.
yes, but it makes a world of
It
difference.
does. It does. Yeah. Okay. So, Meredith, I know that you have a free gift for our listeners. Do you want to talk about what that is?
I would love to. So I'm so grateful to be here with you today. And I wanted to do something big for your listeners. And so I am offering a free coaching session, a free half hour to whomever comes and hops on my calendar and sets it up. So
That's wonderful and very generous.
thank you.
Generous.
Thank
Yes.
you.
And for the listeners, the button below this video will, if you click on that, that will take you right to Meredith's calendar, so you can schedule that time with her.
Yes.
So, Meredith, thank you so much for being here. This is great. I really
Thank
enjoyed
you too.
with you.
I really,
Thank you to our listeners too for participating in the Untapped Potential for Women Over 50 mini summit. And be sure you tune in again tomorrow, where another expert will be sharing her unique point of view about redesigning and living your life on your terms. I'll see you tomorrow. Take care.